Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the world of motorcycles, specifically the TVS Apache RR 310. I've seen this article from a motorcycle enthusiast blog,
Yeah.
and people seem to be pretty excited about this bike, so I'm really interested to see if it lives up to the hype, especially for people who want a sporty bike, but,
Yeah.
something that's still practical for everyday use.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is that this bike was launched in 2017, and it's actually the flagship model of TVS. They're an Indian manufacturer,
Mhm.
known for making good quality motorcycles, but at affordable prices. And get this, it was actually developed with BMW, which I think adds a whole other level of interest to this.
Okay, yeah, the BMW connection definitely makes me want to learn more. So does this collaboration actually translate into any real advantages for the Apache RR 310, like in terms of performance or technology?
Absolutely. The article really highlights how this partnership with BMW brought a level of engineering and technological expertise that you can really see in the bike's features and performance. It's like German precision engineering. Infused into an Indian-made motorcycle, for example. The engine is a direct result of this collaboration. It's a 312.2 cc single-cylinder engine, and it generates 34 horsepower and 27.3 nm of torque. For those who might not be familiar with up of torque, it's basically a measure of the twisting force that gets those wheels turning. So more torque means faster acceleration and better pulling power, when you're
Yeah.
overtaking or going uphill.
So it sounds like this bike has some real power for its size. But I know you're not all about speed. Fuel efficiency is super important for a lot of riders, especially for people who use their bikes every day for commuting. So what does the article say about that?
Well, the article claims a fuel economy of 30 to 35 kilometers per liter, which is actually pretty impressive for a sport bike.
Huh.
But like they say, real-world mileage can vary a lot depending on your riding style, traffic conditions, and how well you maintain your bike. And this is where those personal stories in the article are really helpful. Gives you a better idea of how it actually performs in different situations.
Yeah, I always find those personal stories so relatable. What kind of experiences did they share?
So they talk about this guy named Raj, who commutes every day in the city. And he gets around 32 kilometers per liter, even dealing with all that city traffic. He seems pretty happy with it. And then there's Tara, who likes to go for weekend rides. And on those open roads, she gets like 38 kilometers per liter.
Wow, so it really delivers on the fuel efficiency, which is great for riders who are on a budget. But I want to move past the basics now. What are some of the standout features that make this bike special? Anything that might surprise people who are used to more traditional sport bikes?
Yeah, the article really emphasizes that this bike isn't all about speed and sacrificing comfort. They talk about how the riding position, it's a good balance between sporty and comfortable. So it works for short trips, but also longer rides. And the author even says they were surprised at how comfortable it was, even though it looks so sporty.
Yeah. When I hear sport bike, I picture myself all hunched over the handlebars, which wouldn't be great for a long commute or a weekend ride. Sounds like TVS has kind of challenged that stereotype.
Yeah, for sure. And they've also included dual-channel ABS. This is great for braking and stability, especially for new riders. It stops your wheels from locking up if you have to brake suddenly.
Right. Safety is so important,
Yeah.
especially with a bike that's this powerful. What about tech features? Is there anything particularly noteworthy?
The bike has a really cool, fully digital instrument cluster, packed with information. Speed, fuel level, gear position. It even has a lap timer. For people who like to hit the track, it's like having a mini computer on your handlebars.
Oh, wow. That lap timer sounds like fun. I bet that's a big draw for people who enjoy track days. Do you think this reflects a bigger trend of adding these performance features to everyday bikes?
That's a good point. It does seem like manufacturers are combining different types of motorcycles more and more to offer these bikes that can do a lot of things.
Okay, so we got fuel efficiency, comfort, safety features, and some cool technology. But how does the Apache RR 310 compare to other bikes in its class? There must be other bikes out there
Yeah,
that are trying to attract riders who want something sporty but practical.
definitely. The article mentions two main competitors, the KTM RC390 and the Bajaj Dominar 400. The RC390 is known for its performance. It's got a more powerful engine, but it's also more expensive, and it might not be as comfortable for longer rides.
I've had good things about the RC390. But yeah, comfort is important if you're going to be spending a lot of time on your bike.
Exactly. And then you've got the Dominar 400, which is more about a relaxed riding experience. It's a comfortable bike, and it can handle a lot, but it might not have that sporty edge that the Apache RR 310 has.
So it sounds like the Apache RR 310 is right in the middle. It's a balance of performance and practicality. But wouldn't you say that a motorcycle's real value is in how it performs over the long term, how reliable it is. You want a bike that will last for years.
Oh, absolutely. And it's good to know that the article talks about that too. They don't just focus on the excitement of a brand new bike, they actually look at what it's like to own one for a long time. And the feedback is really positive.
That's good to hear. So what kind of feedback did they share? Any stories from people who have owned the bike for a while?
Yeah, they talk about how generally reliable it is and the need for regular maintenance, which is normal for any motorcycle. There's even a story about this guy, Samir. He's had his Apache RR 310 for more than 2 years. And he says it's been really reliable. He only had a couple of minor issues. And those were easy to fix during routine servicing.
That's great. It makes a big difference when you're thinking about buying a bike, to know that it has a good track record for reliability. But what about the community aspect? Does the article mention anything about support networks or online communities for Apache owners?
They do. And it's pretty interesting. They mentioned that there are lots of online forums and social media groups specifically for Apache owners. These communities are a great resource for tips, troubleshooting help, and connecting with other people who love these bikes. It's like having a built-in support system.
Yeah, that kind of community can definitely make owning a bike more enjoyable. Like you've got this whole team of people who share your passion and can help you out. I'm curious though, beyond the practical benefits, what do you think it is about the Apache RR310 that creates such a strong sense of community?
You know what's interesting is that it seems to attract riders of all levels. You've got experienced riders who appreciate its performance and handling. And then you've got newer riders who are drawn to its affordability and how easy it is to ride.
So it's a bike that brings people together, regardless of their experience or riding style. That's pretty amazing. But before we move on, I have one more question about that BMW collaboration. I'm wondering how it might be influencing the future of motorcycle design, especially in emerging markets like India.
That's a good question. And it ties into this larger trend we're seeing in the motorcycle industry, the Apache RR 310. With its performance, technology, and affordability, could be seen as a kind of microcosm of this trend. Motorcycles that are made for a global audience, with all sorts of different needs and preferences.
Yeah, it's like the lines between different categories of motorcycles are blurring. We're seeing more bikes that can handle all kinds of riding styles and situations. I'm really interested to hear more about your thoughts on this global shift and how the Apache RR310 fits into the bigger picture. But I think it's time for a quick break. We'll be back soon to continue this conversation.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing how the Apache RR 310 might be influencing the future of motorcycle design, particularly when we think about globalization and the rise of these emerging markets. It's a really interesting area to look at.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like we're seeing a change in the motorcycle industry where bikes are becoming more versatile and adaptable to meet the needs of so many different types of riders. And the Apache RR310, with its blend of performance, practicality, and affordability, seems to be leading the way.
Exactly. And this is where that collaboration with BMW becomes even more important. BMW is known for its engineering and technological innovation. And you can definitely see that influence in the Apache RR310's design and performance. But I think it's more than just about sharing technology. It's also a strategic move for BMW to tap into those emerging markets like India, where the demand for motorcycles is exploding.
That makes a lot of sense. India has such a huge population, and its economy is growing so rapidly, it's become a major force in the global motorcycle market. And companies like TVS are in a great position to capitalize on this trend by making bikes specifically for Indian riders and their needs. But what are some of those needs? What makes the Indian market unique?
Well, one big difference is that motorcycles in India, they're often more than just a recreational vehicle. For a lot of people, they're their primary mode of transportation. They use them for commuting, running errands, even transporting goods. So practicality and fuel efficiency are super important.
Yeah, I can see that. In those crowded Indian cities, a smaller, fuel-efficient bike would be essential for getting around.
Definitely. And that's where the Apache RR 310 really shines. It's sporty, but also practical. It's got a comfortable riding position, a fuel-efficient engine, and a price that makes it accessible to a lot of people.
It's like they found the perfect balance between performance and everyday use, which seems to be a winning combination in India. But we also have to talk about the emotional side of motorcycling. We mentioned earlier how the Apache RR310 might create this emotional connection with riders. And I'm curious how that plays out in a culture where motorcycles are such a big part of daily life.
That's a great point. In India, motorcycles are more than just machines. They're often seen as an extension of the person, reflecting their style and personality. And I think the Apache RR 310, with its sleek design and sporty performance, really taps into that desire for individual expression.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Riding a motorcycle can be such a freeing experience, and I imagine that feeling is even stronger in a place where motorcycles are so essential to life. But let's talk a bit more about the community aspect. We talked before about that strong online presence of Apache RR310 owners. Why do you think this particular bike has created such a strong sense of community?
I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, that it appeals to riders of all levels, whether you're experienced or just starting out.
So it's not just for speed demons or weekend riders, it's a bike that brings everyone together and creates a sense of shared passion among its owners.
Exactly. That's what makes the community aspect so special. It's a place for riders to connect with each other, share their experiences, offer advice, and just celebrate their love for the Apache RR310.
It's like this built-in support system, a network of people who understand the joys and challenges of
Yeah.
owning and riding this specific bike. But as we've been talking about the Apache RR310 and its impact on the motorcycle industry, I've been thinking about a bigger question. What does this bike say about the future of transportation in general? Especially with all the concern about sustainability and the environment, motorcycles are often seen as symbols of freedom and individuality. But they also contribute to emissions and traffic. So how do we reconcile these two seemingly contradictory ideas?
That's a really important question. And it's one that the motorcycle industry is definitely wrestling with as we move towards a more sustainable future. And I think the Apache RR310, with its focus on fuel efficiency and its appeal to a diverse group of riders, offers some interesting insights.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What kind of insights?
Well, firstly, the bike's fuel efficiency makes it a more sustainable option compared to those larger, less efficient motorcycles. And because it's so versatile, it can be used for so many different things, which could potentially reduce the need for people to own multiple vehicles.
So it's a more environmentally friendly choice,
Yeah,
especially for people who depend on motorcycles for their daily transportation.
absolutely. And as technology keeps advancing, I think we'll see even more innovation in the motorcycle industry, focused on reducing environmental impact, like electric motorcycles, hybrid models, maybe even alternative fuels.
Wow, that's exciting. It sounds like the future of motorcycling is going to be this amazing blend of performance, sustainability, and all this new technology. But let's come back to the present for a moment. We've talked about the Apache RR310's global impact, its cultural significance, and even how it might play a role in shaping the future of transportation. But there's one aspect we haven't fully explored yet: the bike's design. We mentioned its sporty look and its aerodynamic features, but I'd love to dig deeper into the design philosophy behind it. What makes it stand out visually? What were the designers trying to achieve?
Yeah, that's a great point. A motorcycle's design isn't just about how it looks. It reflects the bike's personality and its purpose. And the Apache R310's design is really interesting because it embodies this balance between sportiness and practicality.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. What are some of the specific design choices that convey that balance?
Well, if you look at the overall shape of the bike, you'll notice this sharp, angular profile. It really gives you a sense of speed and agility. Things like the sculpted fairing, the low handlebars, and the rearward sloping seat. They all contribute to this sporty aesthetic.
Yeah.
But then you've got other elements that hint at its practicality and how it can be used every day.
Oh, yeah, like what?
For example, the riding position is relatively upright. It's not as aggressive as some other sport bikes, so it's more comfortable for longer rides. And then there's the seat, which is well padded. And the foot pegs are positioned really thoughtfully to make it even more comfortable.
So it's a design that looks great, but also feels good to ride.
Exactly. And this design philosophy seems to be working because the Apache RR310 is becoming a really popular choice for riders all over the world who want a bike that's both sporty and practical.
It really shows the skill of the designers. They were able to create a bike that's beautiful.
And carefully engineered.
But as we talk about design, I can't help but wonder how much of it is influenced by cultural trends and regional preferences. I mean, does the design of a motorcycle change depending on where it's being sold?
That's a really interesting question. And I think it highlights how global the motorcycle industry has become. In the past,
Yeah.
motorcycle designs were often shaped by regional tastes. But as motorcycles have become more of a global product, we're seeing these design styles converge.
So are we heading towards a world where all motorcycles look the same, no matter where they're made or sold?
Not necessarily. I think there's still space for regional variations and cultural influences, but it's more about finding a balance between global trends and local preferences.
So like a global design language.
Yeah.
With different dialects. That's a cool way to think about it. But I think we've reached a good point to pause for now. We've explored the Apache RR310's global reach, we've talked about the cultural importance of motorcycles, and even touched on how motorcycle design is evolving. I'm really looking forward to continuing this conversation in the final part of our deep dive, where we'll examine some of the bigger implications of the Apache RR310's success and its potential to influence the future of the motorcycle industry.
Welcome back to our deep dive on the TVS Apache RR310. We've talked about a lot, from its fuel efficiency and router-friendly features to its global impact and that awesome community it's built. Now, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on what this bike's success could mean for the future of motorcycles. Is it just a passing trend? Or could it be a sign of a bigger shift in how manufacturers think about motorcycle design, especially for emerging markets?
I think the Apache RR310 represents a real turning point in the industry. It's not just that it's a popular bike. It's almost like a roadmap for how to create motorcycles that connect with people all over the world. It combines performance, practicality, and affordability. And that challenges the traditional idea of what a sport bike should be.
It seems like they've really tacked into something, those riders who want both excitement and versatility, especially in places where a motorcycle is more than just a toy. It's an essential part of daily life.
Exactly. And that's where I think the Apache RR310 is going to have the biggest impact. It's showing that riders, especially in the emerging markets, don't have to choose. They could have a bike that's fun and stylish, but also fuel efficient, comfortable enough to use every day.
This brings us back to that collaboration with BMW, which seems to be more than just about technology. It's like this strategic alliance that's changing the whole motorcycle industry. What do you think the long-term effects of this collaboration will be? Could it lead to more partnerships like this between established manufacturers and up-and-coming companies like TVS?
Definitely. This collaboration is a great example of how globalization is leading to more innovation. In the motorcycle world, I think we're going to see more partnerships like this, where companies work together and use each other's strengths to create bikes that appeal to a wider audience. This kind of sharing of ideas and expertise could lead to some really incredible advancements in motorcycle design and technology.
It's amazing to think about how the motorcycle industry is changing to meet the needs of a global market. With so many different tastes and riding styles, the Apache RR310 is a perfect illustration of how a well-designed motorcycle can cross borders and connect with riders everywhere.
And we can't forget about the online community and how they've helped to make this bike even more popular and create a sense of shared passion among its owners. These digital spaces are becoming so important to the motorcycling experience. They provide platforms for riders to connect with each other, share stories, and build real friendships.
It's like a virtual extension of the open road, where riders can keep the adventure going, even when they're not riding. As we wrap up this deep dive on the Apache RR310, I'm feeling really optimistic about the future of motorcycling. It feels like we're moving into a new era, where innovation, sustainability, and a sense of global community are driving the industry forward.
I couldn't agree more. The Apache R310 is a shining example of what's possible when manufacturers combine cutting-edge technology with a deep understanding of what riders want and need. It's a bike that embodies the spirit of adventure, the freedom, the pure joy of riding.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. We've covered so much today, and I hope you've all learned something new about this incredible motorcycle and its impact on the world of two wheels. A big thank you to you for sharing your insights and expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. I always love exploring the world of motorcycles and the amazing stories they tell.
And to all our listeners out there, we'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Share them with us on social media. We love connecting with our community. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and the adventure alive.